You know, sometimes the biggest changes start in the most unexpected ways. This story, it all kicks off with a single insult. A really tense moment, just thick with misunderstanding, that somehow transforms into this profound lesson about how we see the world. It's the story of how one person decided to look past the surface of some pretty harsh words, and in doing that, changed absolutely everything. So, get this. A man named Māgaṇḍiya, who's a spiritual seeker himself, spots the Buddha and just lets him have it with this accusation. In the original Pali, it's Bunahu samano gatomo. Now, a straight-up translation would be something like, the ascetic Gautama is a growth stunter. But to really feel the sting, you gotta put it in today's terms. He's basically shouting, that guy Gautama? He's a total vibe killer. Seriously.
And that's the big question we're diving into here. Why that specific insult? I mean, what could the Buddha possibly be doing that would make someone accuse him of, well, of killing the vibe? As we're about to see, Māgaṇḍiya's insult and the Buddha's truly revolutionary response all came down to the hidden meaning of a few simple words.
Okay, so let's set the scene. It's pretty simple. Māgaṇḍiya, this wandering ascetic, finds out where the Buddha has been staying. But when he gets there, all he finds is a simple grass mat on the floor. And to him, this isn't humility, it's an offense. This kind of extreme rejection of comfort is exactly what sets him off and leads to that big outburst.
But the Buddha's reaction, this is where things get really interesting. He doesn't get defensive. He doesn't argue back. Instead, he just completely reframes the whole conversation. He calmly asks Māgaṇḍiya, hey, are you saying this because I teach about restraining the senses from being overwhelmed by pleasure? Just like that, he turns an attack into a moment of teaching.
So to explain his point, the Buddha doesn't launch into some dry philosophical lecture. Nope. He tells a story. And it's a powerful one, a parable about a leper. This is his way of showing Māgaṇḍiya a totally different way of looking at what pleasure and happiness really truly are.
Okay, so the story goes like this. There's a man suffering terribly. His whole body is covered in these painful sores. The only relief he gets, the only thing he would call pleasure, is scratching those sores over a hot charcoal fire. It feels good, right? But only because of the crazy itching from his disease. Then a doctor comes along and cures him completely. His skin is healthy, smooth. Now imagine someone trying to drag him back to that same fire. Would he feel pleasure? No way. He'd only feel searing, awful pain. The fire didn't change at all. He did.
And that is the Buddha's whole point. He's saying that what we so often call sensual pleasure is just like that leper scratching himself. It only feels good because there's this underlying agitation, this constant itch of craving and wanting something. So the real goal, the highest form of happiness, isn't about finding better and better ways to scratch, it's about curing the itch entirely.
All right, so to really grasp the huge shift that's happening for Māgaṇḍiya, we have to do more than just translate the words. We need to put on our ancient linguist hats for a second and explore the words beneath the words. This is where it gets really cool. The key to unlocking this whole conversation is a concept from ancient Indian linguistics called nirvana. Now, this isn't just about what a word means in a dictionary. It's a super deep analysis that traces a word all the way back to its roots to figure out the speaker's true intent, or what they called atta. Think of it like our secret decoder ring for this whole dialogue.
Okay, so now we're going to circle back to Māgaṇḍiya's insult and the Buddha's big ideas. But this time, we're going to look at them through this deeper linguistic lens. You're about to see how the surface meaning of a word can totally hide a much, much more profound reality.
Let's start with that insult, bunahu. On the surface, yeah, it means growth stunter or, like we said, vibe killer. But when you look at it through the lens of nirvana, you see its root is the word bhava, and bhava means becoming or existence. So Māgaṇḍiya wasn't just saying the Buddha was no fun. He was accusing him of destroying the very drive to exist, to become something. He thought it was a philosophy of nothingness.
And this is just brilliant, because it illustrates the Buddha's point perfectly. He basically agrees with the accusation, but completely redefines it. He says, yeah, I am a destroyer of becoming, but not of life itself. He teaches the end of that restless, anxious, suffering-filled cycle of always needing to become something else, of never just being at peace. So you see, he's not stopping growth, he's breaking a cycle.
Okay, next up, the word for pleasure, kama. The surface translation is sensual pleasures. You know, good food, nice music, all that stuff. But its linguistic root, it's all tied up with wanting, with craving, with desire. It's not the satisfaction itself. It's the itch. It's that feeling of lack that makes you go looking for something outside yourself. It's the leper's disease.
This redefines everything, doesn't it? The Buddha's idea of happiness isn't about piling on more and more pleasurable moments. It's not about a bigger feast. It's about that deep, profound sense of peace that comes when that constant, gnawing hunger for more is just gone. It's freedom from the itch.
So, as the conversation keeps going, the Buddha quotes this old saying that Māgaṇḍiya totally agrees with: health is the ultimate gain. But the way Māgaṇḍiya understands the word health shows he's still missing the bigger picture.
When the Buddha asks him what he means by health, Māgaṇḍiya literally rubs his own arms and says, "This, right here, I'm healthy, I feel good, I'm not sick. This is health. This is the ultimate bliss." For him, it's just about the physical body feeling okay.
And so, to bridge this final gap in understanding, the Buddha tells one last story. This one's about a man born blind, and it is the perfect analogy for someone who knows the name for something, but has never, ever truly seen it. In the story, the blind man keeps hearing people talk about this beautiful, clean, white cloth. So a trickster comes along and hands him a filthy, oily rag and says, "Here's that amazing white cloth you wanted." The blind man, having no way to know any better, thinks it's wonderful and treasures this dirty rag. But then a doctor comes and cures his blindness. And for the first time in his life, he actually sees the rag for the disgusting thing it is and realizes he's been deceived. Māgaṇḍiya, he is that blind man, treasuring a false idea of health.
And of course, the word for health, arogya, holds the final key. While Māgaṇḍiya just sees it as a healthy body, the Buddha reveals its deeper, literal meaning. Arogya actually means non-sickness. Not just being free from a cold, but being free from the fundamental disease of craving and ignorance, freedom from the itch itself.
And with that, boom, the light goes on. Māgaṇḍiya has this massive epiphany. He realizes he is the blind man who's just been given sight. He finally understands that what he'd been calling health and happiness this whole time was really just that dirty rag. The real thing, true freedom, was something he never even knew existed.
So when you look at it, this timeline shows his incredible journey, all in a single conversation. It started with a hostile insult, born from a complete misunderstanding. But through these patient explanations and this deep dive into what words really mean, it led to this profound realization, and ultimately to Māgaṇḍiya asking to become a student and finding complete enlightenment.
In the end, what started out as this sharp, angry insult became an invitation to see reality in a whole new way. Māgaṇḍiya thought he was talking about growth and pleasure and health. The Buddha showed him he was really talking about cycles and itches and the very nature of disease. A single word, when you really look at it, can open up an entire world.
And that kind of leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? We use words all the time. Words like happiness, success, freedom. But maybe like Māgaṇḍiya, are we just holding on to the surface meaning? Are we treasuring a dirty rag? What might we discover if we just took a moment to look at the words beneath the words?